Imagine you somehow bring an ancient human from 20,000 years ago into the modern world. After the initial shock of cars, buildings, and smartphones, you decide to explain your life. You tell him that every morning, an alarm wakes you up before sunrise. You put on special clothes, travel to a giant building, sit in the same place for 8 hours, then return home, and do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, for decades. The ancient human stares at you, confused, then asks a simple question. Why? And honestly, you might struggle to answer the strangest thing about modern work. When we think about ancient humans, we often imagine constant struggle, hunting, gathering, or surviving. Life was undoubtedly harder in many ways, but their lives were also fundamentally different from ours. For most of human history, people worked directly for survival. If you hunted successfully, you ate. If you gathered food, your family benefited immediately. The connection between effort and reward was visible. You could see it, touch it, understand it. But imagine trying to explain a modern office job. You spend hours staring at symbols on a screen, moving numbers around, answering emails, attending meetings. At the end of the month, numbers appear in a bank account. Then those numbers are exchanged for food. To us, this makes perfect sense. To an ancient human, it would sound like a very complicated ritual. The invisible hunt. Ancient humans hunted animals. Modern humans hunt something far stranger, money. Think about it. You wake up, travel somewhere, compete with other people, spend energy solving problems, and receive a reward. The structure is surprisingly similar. The difference is that your prey isn't visible. You can't point to it. You can't track it through the forest. You can't cook it over a fire. Instead, you're chasing an abstract idea that only has value because everyone agrees it does. An ancient hunter might understand the effort, but the concept itself? That would be bizarre. Imagine telling him, I spend 40 hours a week collecting invisible points so I can buy food. The explanation somehow becomes less convincing the more you think about it. The cage you volunteer for now. Imagine explaining schedules. You tell the ancient human that every weekday you must arrive at a specific location at a specific time. If you're late, that's bad. If you don't show up, that's even worse. If you stop showing up long enough, you may lose your source of income. The ancient human looks around. There are no chains, no guards, no spears pointed at you. Yet somehow you're still required to be there. From his perspective, this would seem incredibly strange. Because for most of human history, humans moved according to seasons, weather, daylight, and opportunity. Not calendars, not meetings, not alarms. The idea of millions of people organizing their lives around clocks would probably seem unnatural after all. The sun already existed. Why invent another way to tell people what to do? Why he might think it's a trap? Here's where things get interesting. The ancient human probably wouldn't think your life is bad. He'd be amazed by your safety, your medicine, your technology, your access to food. But he might notice something else. You spend most of your waking hours doing things you wouldn't do if money disappeared tomorrow. Think about that. Many people dream about weekends, vacations, retirement, the moments when they're finally free to choose how they spend their time. To an ancient human, that might sound backwards. Why spend so much of your life waiting for your life to begin? That's the question that would confuse him most. Not because he had all the answers, but because he lived in a world where survival and living were often the same thing. For many modern people, they've become separate. Of course, the ancient human wouldn't want to trade places with you. Life in prehistory was dangerous. Disease was common. Injuries could be fatal. And comfort was rare. But that's not the point. The point is perspective. Sometimes we become so used to our routines that we stop noticing how strange they really are. We wake up, commute, work, sleep, repeat, and rarely ask why. Maybe that's why imagining an ancient human judging our lives is so fascinating. Because for the first time in a long time, we get to see ourselves from the outside. And from that perspective, one thing becomes clear. The modern world is incredibly impressive, but it's also incredibly weird. And if a hunter from 20,000 years ago could spend one day in your shoes, he might leave with a question that's surprisingly difficult to answer. Are you working to live or living to work?